day, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Chatting with the Lightkeeper. I'm Edward, and I hope wherever you're listening that your week is going fantastic. And, it just seems what it was probably 2 weeks ago that I was going to record this down at the lighthouse when the weather was summer-like and everything was turning green. And this morning it is, I don't know where spring went. Spring has been placed on hold temporarily. It was snowing this morning. So spring in my neck of the woods is, I guess, pretty finicky. Hopefully it will warm up at some point in the month of May, which is just, a few days away, or actually perhaps even, I need to check the dates. It's one of those days. You'll actually be hearing this in the month of May. So hopefully when you're hearing this in my fair city, it will start to feel like spring. Although, other than a few days, 5 good days, I guess, it hasn't felt like spring. Anyway, just like spring kind of has stereotypes, we expect the weather to warm up, the snow to go home for the winter, or the spring and summer, and see in late fall, early winter. There's, stereotypes with our seasons. And let's face it, we're all human, and we've all done it more than once, whether we like to admit it or not, but we have stereotyped. And it's not good, it's not fun, but it's human nature, it's what humans do. And if you are involved in DS, BDSM, all that good stuff, the vanilla world has stereotypes for you. And so that's what I wanted to chat about on this week's episode is the stereotypes that we face in the lifestyle. So let's just jump right in. And I guess the biggest stereotype that we have, well, let's rephrase that. I am scrolling on my notes because I was not prepared with my notes right in front of me. Imagine that. Mr. Prepared, Mr. Note Taker didn't have them up. Never fear, a quick few flips of the finger on my laptop screen, and we are up with my notes in front of me. So, as you know, there are stereotypes that the vanilla world puts on us in the lifestyle. And so we need to talk about them because we, as a lifestyle, need to confront them and also ourselves be prepared for them when we do share with a vanilla person that we're kinky or we're involved in the lifestyle or however we gingerly bring that up. We want to be prepared for the misconceptions that they understand to be truths about the lifestyle. Not everyone assumes misconceptions and stereotypes are truthful, but they exist and it's what people think of. So we need to be prepared to discuss them and talk about them when we interact with a vanilla person and share that we're DS, or even interacting with somebody who's new to the lifestyle. Because if you're new to the lifestyle, you're coming without much background. So these stereotypes that you've seen about DS or BDSM, you might be kind of in your exploring wondering if they're true or not true. So the first one, and like I said, it's probably the one that is most well known out there in the vanilla world. I don't know. I've never seen or read the books, but I'm sure 50 Shades of Grey portrayed some impact play, some pain play, something where pain was involved. And so BDSM is all about pain. That is probably the number one thing that people who they don't know anything about the lifestyle, but if they ask them what they knew about the lifestyle, that would be the number one answer. If this was Family Feud, we'd all be jumping up and down because the number one little thing would have flipped over for us. And for those of you who don't know, this has always made me chuckle to myself because BDSM, actually, if we really truly abbreviated it for what it means, we would have BDDSSM because it stands for bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadism, and masochism. And within that, there's a whole bunch of things that are not related to any type of pain, um, or anything along those lines. But for whatever reason, um, the vanilla world likes to think that everyone involved in the lifestyle is a pain freak. And if that's your jam, rock on, own it, love it. But just understand that that's not everybody. Um, one of the stereotypes or stigmas that I struggled with accepting that DS was part of who I am, is the fact that there's the and it really is more of a stigma than a stereotype, is that people who engage in BDSM are mentally unhealthy or that they're deviants. I mean, yeah, I'm a deviant, but I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that I'm a deviant as in, I don't know, creepy old dude deviant. Um, and the really interesting thing is, as more and more research is being done by, real doctors and real research facilities and real researchers and sociologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and all those people, they're finding that people who are involved in BDSM actually typically are more mentally healthy. And there's even research to suggest that we are, as in the lifestyle, happier of all things. But the myth is that if you enjoy the pain, because that's what BDSM is, pain, then you have to be some sort of deviant or mentally unwell. Because who else would like that sort of stuff? You have to be cuckoo, crazy. Yep, well, we're all crazy because if we weren't all crazy, we would go insane. But anyways, that's one of the other big myths. And of course, it's humiliation. If you're not into the pain of BDSM or DS, if you're not into pain, then you must be here because you like to be humiliated. And, once again, we know that that's not true, but we need to be aware that is how people who are uneducated about the lifestyle are potentially going to see us. Um, let's just cut right to the dance with no pants here too, because if you're in the lifestyle, there's two big sex myths. First is, if you're in the United States, if you listen to the podcast a few weeks back about the history of the lifestyle, um, we discovered that pretty much the modern community evolved out of what in the late 40s, 50s, 60s was called the leather community. And in the leather community, it was made up of gay men. So we extrapolate that out to the uneducated people out there and I was saying uneducated in regards to the lifestyle, not that they are uneducated in anything in the world. I'm using uneducated or undereducated to refer to what they know about the lifestyle, not about their actually what they know and don't know about the rest of the world. So I'm not meaning it in a derogatory thing. It's just, um, people that have not learned about the lifestyle. So, anyways, so you have that lack of education in the lifestyle, and people who do have some exposure to kind of history. And when it was first kind of bubbling up and getting exposure, it was gay men. So the myth is, if you are involved in DS or BDSM, that guess what? That you are, especially if you're a man, that you are gay or bisexual, because this is what people know. They know that the leather lifestyle was primarily made up of gay and homosexual men. So therefore, if you're involved and you're a male, you're gay or bisexual. Um, it's kind of funny how that works because, you know, I'll get to it again. But the other one of the other stereotypes are men dominant, female submissive, and yet here we are. If you're a man, you are gay or bi, and females are submissive. It just strikes me. A little irony there. Okay, and more on the sexual side. And of course, if you are listening to this, you probably are online involved in the lifestyle in some way, shape, or form. So, there are a lot of people out there who think the lifestyle is just a lot of kinky sex. And hey, if you're here for the kinky sex, that's great. Hang out, enjoy it, get it done, do your thing. There's nothing wrong with it, but understand that there's more to the lifestyle than just kinky bow chicka wow wow. You know, because there's a whole lot more. Another one is dominance equals abuse because people associate the lifestyle with abusive behaviors. And once again, the people who don't understand the lifestyle don't understand that everything is done with mutual consent and healthy lifestyle relationships. All the partners involved have a say in what happens in the dynamic, what activities will be engaged in, what will not. Everybody can just, say stop, say their safe word, they can revoke consent. All of this is there, and all of us involved in the lifestyle understand this. But to an outsider and your typical vanilla, BDSM and DS can be seen as an abusive relationship. And it's also important to note, last week we talked about crazy sex laws. So remember that, because heaven forbid something bad goes bump, and let's say you end up in an emergency room, or you have to involve law enforcement in something, and it comes to light that you are involved in DS. It's a little bit better if you're submissive because you'll be seen as the victim, where if you're a dominant, you will be seen as the suspect, if you will, by many who see the lifestyle as abusive. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's not a fun, happy thought, but it's a real world, real life thought, and it's one to be aware of. And as we said before, when we were talking myths and the myth of if you're involved in DS or BDSM, that if you're a male, you are gay or bi. And this is directly contrast with the myth that dominants are male, submissives female. Now, we all know that any gender can be any role in the lifestyle. Um, a woman can be a daddy, and you know, it doesn't matter. But there is the myth that male is dominant and female is submissive, and you can even see it in a lot of the memes and stuff that float around. Masculine words will be used for, in describing dominance, and female words and pronouns will typically be associated with submissive. So that's just, it is what it is. And I guess that goes to the way human beings have portrayed history for years, as men and women serve their men, which is junk and bunk. But it is what it is, and hopefully in the world we're going to continue to make changes and continue to make progress and do it even faster in regards to that. Um, Another myth is that if you're involved in a DS relationship, that it is 24/7. The dominant is in charge and large, and whatever they say goes, and they thump their chest, and you submissive 24/7 just go and do what is asked of you. And there is no break, there is no spaces that are, lifestyle free, or perhaps not as not as domineering, or not so much part of the lifestyle, like a person's work. When you're in your work life mode, yes, you can do things and know that you are in a DS relationship, and do things for your submissive or your dominant while you're at work. But when you're working, you are not necessarily in DS mode. Um, in a past relationship, I dated somebody who was a medical professional, and in their work life, they certainly weren't going to call me their dominant and say, "Oh, I have a patient presenting with this. Should I prescribe this, this, or this?" you're my dominant. You need to tell me what. No, heck no. And most submissives, and I do say it's most, but I do believe this. Most submissives are dominant in aspects of their lives, if not appearing dominant to the rest of the world. It's one of those things. Once again, one of those things that a vanilla person just isn't going to understand until they are taught about it. Another wonderful myth that is out there is that dominants are strict and we're authoritarian. And, we just rule the relationship with an iron fist, almost like we're mini dictators. And a submissive is just, you know, whatever they want, whatever my dom wants, I'll do. All they do is they just let me know what they want, and I just drop everything, and that the submissive just yields to everything their authoritative partner wants. And we know that's not true. We know that doesn't work that way, but that's how the vanilla world sees us. Okay, and the other, well, another, we're one away from the most common misperceptions. So what would this be? The penultimate one? That everything that happens in the lifestyle is dangerous. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. And people who practice BDSM, they just are not aware of the risk. They don't take safety precautions, and it's amazing they just don't end up in the emergency room every time they have one of their little kinky get-togethers. So for whatever reason, the fact that the lifestyle has these wonderful, safety protocols, if you will, that are ingrained or should be ingrained into everybody, whether you practice safe, sane, consensual, risk aware, consensual kink, whether you're a prick or whether you practice the 4Cs. Pretty much everyone involved in the lifestyle has a manner in which they do it consensually, and that it prioritizes mitigating risk and safety. But to somebody out there who is not experienced with the lifestyle, they may feel that everything that you do is crazy dangerous. So, danger with that one. And finally, the last one, perhaps it gets back to the the I guess you could say the forefathers of the lifestyle, the leather community, because people will make the assumption that it's all leather pants and vests and leather shirts and leather outfits of every type you can imagine, and whips and chains, all the jokes about whips and chains and leather. Well, people believe it. So that's kind of crazy, but those are some of the most common actually, crazy stereotypes that people who don't know about the lifestyle are going to think about the lifestyle. And now let's talk about some of the fun, because within the lifestyle we have three major roles. We have switches, we have submissives, and we have dominants. And while this isn't so much a role, but the lifestyle also includes, and is also, even if they're not involved in the lifestyle, often people who are poly kind of congregate around the lifestyle because the lifestyle is a safe, accepting place for them. So all those varieties of roles and people come with stereotypes from the vanilla world. So let's if you're a switch, here's what you can think of if you start to potentially explain yourself to, say, Vinny or Vera Vanilla. Um, Switches, if they understand what a switch is, they are going to think that you are potentially indecisive and unable to make up your mind. I mean, are you dominant or are you submissive? Really? Can't you just pick one? So you have the, indecisive. Oh, you're just an indecisive person. You're an indecisive, kinky person. Um, Also, the being indecisive means you can't commit. I mean, you can't even. How can you have a relationship? You can't commit to whether you're dominant or submissive. You've got commitment issues. Ah, And here's another one. Since uh, switches change their roles, they're not indecisive. It's just when they get bored, they just get bored easy. They get bored as a dominant, so then they decide to be a submissive for a while, and then when that gets boring, they just go back to being a dominant. They do it just to spice up their lives. Their lives are so boring occasionally that they just need to switch their roles up. And if that's the reason why you decide to switch as a person from being dominant to submissive, you didn't find the role to fit, and you wanted to flip to the other side, great. There's no problem with it. Doesn't mean you're there's anything wrong with you, but it's a misperception that when they flip their roles, it's because they're bored. It has nothing to do with the dynamic or the way they vibe with their partner. It's just boredom. Another one is because switches switch their roles from dominant or submissive, they are they're the slutty DS role. And I say slutty not in the term of endearment, if you will, that a dominant may say till they're submissive. Oh, I'm really proud of you, um, and use that little word. Um, they are promiscuous because they switch their roles. They are in the mood to get their play on, and it doesn't matter because they can be dominant or submissive. So whoever comes along first, they'll pick the role that gets them going with their play. They're just slutty people out to get their DS play on any way they can. That's why they switch roles. And the last one, and it's sad, but it's a truism. And there are even people in the DS world that will parrot this crap. And yeah, but switches, because they change their role, they cannot become invested emotionally in a relationship, which makes no sense because every switch I've ever met in my life, how they grow emotionally with the partner is determined by how they vibe with them. So they need that emotional investment, perhaps even more than somebody who just identifies as just plain dominant or just plain submissive. So those are five things that the switches get mollywopped with not being understood. Now, I've got 10 things here for submissives. Now, submissives, I want you to kind of listen to some of these closely because these are perceptions that exist outside of the lifestyle about submissives. And if you think about not all, but some of the craptastic messaging that you receive from dominance, take a second and process these misconceptions that are floating out in the vanilla world about DS, and you'll start to see how these misconceptions end up as those crappy messages in your DMs when they slide in there and you're like, oh my God, what an idiot. Well, I think if you process through these, you'll start to see where some of these, mm, you know, undereducated messages, we'll call them, comes from. First, of course, it's the most popular one. If you're submissive, you are weak and powerless. We all know that is not true. And for me, a submissive is someone who is a strong, capable person who has or may at some point desire to have an equally strong partner that they consent to allowing that partner to lead the relationship. But of course, we all know with consent, it can be revoked at any time and all that good stuff. But submissive does not equal weak or powerless or meek. Another one that is out there is that all submissives are masochists, and every submissive takes pleasure from pain. Once again, we know that's not the case, but out there in the vanilla world, it's a misconception. This is what is thought. Also, let's really do the stereotyping here. Submissives are the same. every submissive is the same. Now, think about that, submissives. You probably see the same dear submissive letter kind of repeat itself through your DMs from different men, or you get chain what you assume is a chain like this dominant or this person has written the same note to 15 people on this site because they have more than likely the misconception that is out there submissive equals same. Another one that's great is submissives have no boundaries, and if they do have them, they struggle setting and keeping maintaining them. Having boundaries as a person, setting them, maintaining them, that's not how to say it? It's not a submissive problem. Everybody has issues somewhere, somehow with setting and maintaining their boundaries at some level somewhere in their personal life. It has no bearing on whether you're dom or sub. But hey, the vanilla world might assume that you've got some boundary issues. Another one. Submissives always obey their orders without question. Yeah, that is not the case. We don't need to belabor that, but there is the perception that when a submissive is told to do something by their dominant, it's sir, yes, sir, or ma'am, yes, ma'am, or whatever the term of endearment is between dom and sub, that they just do it. Another one, and here we go again, submissives, and you'll see this. You'll see. I guarantee if you go to any lifestyle site and you scroll, I'm gonna say through if they have a place where there's pictures or blog or pictures or things like that. Um, Excuse me here just a second. I'm gonna have a little cough and I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Um, Anyways, so as I was saying, go to any lifestyle site or where you like to go, whether it's blogs or maybe it's FetLife, or if you're on Instagram, just scroll through your feed. If you have DS people in your feed, you're gonna see it. Submissives are always sexually available to their dominants. And now there may be some folks out there that are in a DS partnership, and that's part of it. But it's that myth that okay, dominant wants sex, submissive just says okay. It doesn't matter whether the submissive has the migraine, has the flu, had a craptastic day, whatever it is, the submissive always is sexually available to their dominant, which isn't true. We know that, but when once again, you process through the mythology, not mythology, but the assumptions and educated things that are out there in the vanilla world, this one might help explain if you're submissive, part of those um, wonderful messages that roll into your DMs. Another one is that submissives they never take control in life, which is crap. I mean, once again, submissives are strong, capable people. So, yeah, I don't know where this comes from, but I think it's a pile on of submissive equals weak. And it just goes right along with the other kind of, and perhaps it's just semantics here, but submissives are subservient, always subservient, whether it's at work, at home, amongst friends, and we all know that's not true, but it's the perception. Um, I think that's why so many people misunderstand, or why people who are in positions of authority or power or seen as authoritative in their work life, people can be shocked when they find out that that person is submissive because they don't understand that you can be authoritative and you can be strong and you can be in charge and yet still choose to follow the leadership of your chosen person or persons if you're poly. Um, this other one is that, and once again, it kind of goes to this, and that submissives are always eager to please their partners. And let's face it, I think everybody is always eager to please your partner. Believe it or not, if dominance want a happy submissive. Submissives want a happy dominant. So it's in vanillas. I mean, you look at your vanilla friends who are dating or married or in some various stage of liking each other. They want whoever they like or love to be happy and will work to please them and make them happy. It's not just a submissive only trait. And finally, and I apologize, submissives, if you've ever had any of these messages roll into your inbox because it's got to be horrible. There is a myth that submissives are not allowed to make decisions or have opinions. And you do see that, and I know those dominants, and I'm using air quotes as I say dominants, are out there that are kind of working off that misconception. And perhaps it's not that these folks are bad people. They are just very misinformed as to what DS is. And yeah, they need to educate themselves. So those are the top 10 misconceptions or assumptions that are out there about submissive. Now we have them for dominance too. You ready for this one? Dominants are always dominant in all aspects of their lives. It doesn't matter if they're at work, if they're out with friends, they are always the person in charge. Like in their social group, they are the one who says, "Hey, let's do this tonight." And everybody in the social, everyone in the group says, "Yeah, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah." Um, the thing is, it's truthfully, dominants may be dominant in their relationship, but every dominant everywhere is going to have places in their life that they're submissive. They are going to have times at work where they are going to be submissive to someone. Even if they are the boss, they are the founder, the owner, the everything of a business. There are times when they are going to have to submit to the will of somebody else, whether it's a fellow employee who's super valuable, who wants something, and they, even though they are the boss person spectacular, they have to give in, they have to submit to that employee's demands. And the other thing I would dare say, switching out of work mode, in a way, dominants are submissive to their submissive because a dominant must continue on a daily, hourly, minutely basis, strive to continue to at first earn the submission and then maintain that submission. And to keep the relationship going, while the dominant, yes, will be the leader of the relationship, they are submissive in that relationship to, in a way, to the submissive because the submissive has the ultimate authority because they can say no. They can end the relationship. I mean, anybody can end a relationship, dom, sub, switch. Anybody can say, yep, peace, I'm out of here. But in a DS relationship, for the dominant to keep their role, they have to continue to earn the submission of their submissive. And in a way, if you look at it, they kind of, in a way, are submissive to their submissive. You can maybe argue that with me, and it would be a fun debate to have. Feel free to do that. I would love to. But yeah, dominants are not always dominant in everything that they do, see, and touch in their world. Here's another one. Dominants are always sexually aggressive. No, no, no. Yes, a dominant can be sexually aggressive with the consent of their submissive, but they're not like, I don't know, they're not like the creepy guy at the bar who's hitting on every woman. Yeah, no, it isn't the case. But once again, it's the way it's seen or perceived out there. And so, dominance, that's one thing that you will see kind of from new submissives or newer submissives. They almost expect a dominant to be to be sexually aggressive, and it's not the case. Remember, it's all about consent. And so that's a misconception. And here's another. We always talked about dominance being dominant in every aspect of their life. We all know that that's one of the myths. But you tack onto that, because somebody is dominant, they always know what they're doing. Really? No. Even in a relationship, a dominant is still going to be winging it from time to time. We're all winging it in life from time to time. We all are over our head. We're all driving being able to see over the hood or the bonnet, um, and just we're all over our head all the time at work. In life, whether it's at work or at home, or we all have things where we don't know what we're doing, but we know we got to do it. We got to figure it out as we go. It doesn't mean we know what we're doing, and dominants don't always know what they're doing. I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. Listen to the podcast. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. Anyways, dominants like to take charge and make all the decisions. No, that is not true. In fact, I have a mode that I get into, which is also a sign that I need to invest in self care for myself, but I call it decision doubt. I am tired of making choices. I've maybe had a day, a week, or a month, or whatever it is. Normally, it's work stress that gets to me because work is a constant stream of decisions that impact others. And so it's just choice after choice after choice has engulfed my brain at work. And when I am free from the evil empire of work, I don't want to make a choice. And in a relationship, and it's something that I obviously have to communicate to a submissive, but I have to communicate that will occasionally have decision burnout. So if my submissive says, "What would you like for dinner tonight?" My response is literally going to be, "I don't care." And it's not because I don't care about them or I am not hungry, that I don't want to eat. It's just simply, it's a choice that I don't want to make. I don't want to make another choice. And in those times when I am decisioned out, the best thing that a submissive could do in that moment, for me in that moment, is okay, I know you like A and Z for dinner. How would you feel about going to restaurant A or Z? And if I'm ambivalent, hey, submissive, pick one, take me there, tell me this is where we're going for dinner, and I'm good with it because my brain has to recover. I have to recharge. So no, dominants do not have to be in charge and make all the choices. And in fact, case in point for myself, I will get decisioned out. And by the way, when I am single and decisioned out, those are the nights when I can't make up my mind between Chinese food and pizza, two of my favorites. And what'll end up happening is my brain will get into the spiral where I can't make up the mind between Chinese or pizza, and I'll be hungry. But because I can't choose, I'll just choose not to have dinner, which means I think we'll make a good choice for breakfast in the morning. But yeah, there are times where I've gotten so decisioned out where dinner was too much of a choice. And yeah, so, anyways, that's a little personal bit about me. Here's another one about dominance. We are mean and strict. I'm a big meanie. Mean, mean, mean. Dominance equals mean. And I don't know if that is related to the view that the lifestyle is somehow abusive. So if you're dominant, you're mean and strict because you're abusive, perhaps. But is that why so many dominants don't smile when they have profile pictures of themselves? If the dominant doesn't have, if they don't have the what I call abs of steel, where it's just like their head's cut off and it's the waist up of a man with he's Biff the bodybuilder. So that's what I call abs of steel profile picture for dominance. If they don't have that, they will have some wolf. And here's my question to every guy out there who has a wolf as their profile picture. If I drop my pants in front of you, are you going to howl if I moon you? Okay, so you've got the abs of steel, you've got wolfly, and then you have constipated dom face. Because Dominants are mean and strict. So in their profile picture, they're trying to look mean and strict, but they just look like a guy who's sitting on the toilet who's all backed up. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but submissives tell me, give me some feedback on that because you rarely see smiling dominant face. I don't know. You just don't. It's a rarity. So I don't know. Maybe somehow that leads into why we see so much constipated dom face. Uh, and another one is dominants are domineering and intimidating in their whole life. No, that's just called an asshole. Let's just say it what it is. That's an asshole of a person. Domineering and intimidating. That sounds like fancy word for bully. Asshole. No. Nope, nope, nope. Yes, a dominant can be an asshole. Yep. Every human can be an asshole. Doesn't mean we're all dominants. It just means we're all human. Dominants are always looking to increase their power and their control. No, no, we're not. Sorry. Some days you know, we just are, and we are not looking for more, 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 more. I don't quite understand that, but it's just I think it's a myth that like I don't know, somehow like we have like a lust for power. I guess if that was the case, DS wouldn't have all these misconceptions because the whole like every political office in the world would be controlled by DS people, which meant we'd have dominants running every conceivable spot of government, and then the rest of the government would be filled with submissives who need to serve the people. I don't know. Anyways, that's crazy. Um, Here's another one. Dominants never show their vulnerable side. But, if we're domineering and intimidating, mean and strict, I guess we just don't have a vulnerable side. Maybe that's why we don't, as dominant, show it. Anyway, yep, we're so dumbly that we don't ever reveal the side of ourselves that is vulnerable, especially not to our loving submissive. Never, never, never. Um, Now this one, yes, this goes back to the people being assholes. Um, Dominants are only interested in their pleasure. Um, yeah. No, there are people out there like that. We have fun names for those types of people. Um, and they exist in the vanilla world and the DS world, but it doesn't mean that they're dominant. But it's a myth that it's I guess I'll take all the time from the dominants. And of course, our final rule about dominance from people who are undereducated about the lifestyle are dominants like to make all the rules. And if you've ever entered a relationship with a dominant and you are building the accountability factor into your relationship, should that be something you want? Everybody I know yes, dominants will have said, hey, I think that, for example, having a rule about bedtime would be beneficial for you. But it's a give and take. Submissives have input, dominants have inputs, and you're working together to create the partnership. It's not just, a domineering and intimidating, mean and strict dominant. So there you have it with I guess we'll call them the mythology that the vanillas have. Um, and I don't mean all vanillas, you know that. But these are a lot of the bunky things that are out there in the vanilla world about those of us in the lifestyle. Now, if you are poly, once again, mean poly doesn't mean you're involved in DFs, but there are a lot of folks in the lifestyle who are poly or people who are poly that are just kind of under the umbrella of the lifestyle because it's a fun, safe, accepting place where they can just admit and be out there as poly. And so there are assumptions about poly that are laughable as well. And so hopefully you'll join me with some chuckles. And I'm sure who wants to guess where the first one is going? The most, you know, badly bad stereotype there is about poly is that, hey, if you're poly, it's all about sex because you're just, supposedly in these relationships with other people to have sex with other people. It isn't about forming a meaningful connection with somebody else. You're just out there to get sex and you're using this whole I'm poly to have sex with as many people as I can. And we know that's not true. But, once again, Vinny and Vera Vanilla, when they sit down and have coffee and gossip about the evils in the world, and if they believe Polly's evil, they're just out there having sex. It's all about sex. Or if it's not about sex, it's about cheating. Because, if you're having sex with all these people and you have a partnership, you're definitely cheating because, you can't have sex with more than one person ethically. It's got to be cheating. Got to be cheating, and it's got to be about the sex. That's what it is. That's all it is. Okay, so if it's not about sex and it's not about, being an excuse to go cheat, well, then, poly people, they're just those with commitment issues. I mean, they are just unable to commit to one person. They are not strong enough to form committed relationships with just one partner. They just they just can't do that. Well, I would argue, and yes, you may disagree with me, but I would argue that a poly person is capable of stronger relationships in building and forming and being more dedicated to commitment, even though it's multiple people. Because it's multiple people, you can guess more people, more problems in a partnership that includes three people rather than the traditional two. Or what if that jumps to four? The amount of potential relationship landmines that you're going to step in with having more partners. So I would suggest that poly people don't have commitment issues. In fact, I would argue that they have potentially the ability to form stronger commitments and stronger relationships because they can handle multiple partners and the multiple issues that could arise out of it. Um, Another one is that, well, poly relationships, look, it's a fad. And the truth is, poly relationships, they just don't last. I mean, these people, they get together just because they like to have threesomes, foursomes, and more sims and claim that they're in love, but they just don't. They just, the relationships don't last. Somebody gets bored and then they go off and find somebody else, and the whole throuple breaks up. And it's not true. Poly relationships are just as strong, they're just as stable, and they're just as long lasting as any other type of relationship. It's just a myth. And the final poly myth is because it's all those other things that we talked about, the sex, the commitment, and everything. It's just selfish people. I mean, why else would you want to be loved by more than one person? I mean, that is so selfish. I mean, don't you think that's selfish to be loved by more than one person? Criminy. Golly gee, that's horrible. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing, though, to be surrounded by people that you love, they love you, and no one's going to sing the Barney song now? But yeah, it's not selfish. And it's the opposite of selfish. It's giving. I mean, to give love to other people and more than one partner is very giving, much more so than a typical, I think, vanilla person in a mono relationship is capable of. And I think that's part of the reason why they struggle and buy into the mythology, these bad myths about poly. So, thank you for listening to these crazy assumptions that and stereotypes that people have about those of us involved in the lifestyle. So my question now is, how do we beat back these myths and these stereotypes and these misconceptions that are out there? Because there's so many, and let's face it, they do cross over. When you have somebody that's new to the lifestyle, you kind of watch their actions and you can kind of see where some of these misconceptions and stereotypes are clouding their thinking. So, the first thing that all of us have to do, and I'm a proponent of this, is educate yourself. Educate yourself so you can understand the lifestyle better, you understand yourself better, and that way, when you do encounter somebody that you do want to talk to about the lifestyle that is not involved, they're a trusted vanilla friend, and you want to share that, perhaps not your whole story, but just a little bit, that maybe you're a little freakier than they think you are, but you need to be able to articulate the lifestyle and what it means for you, and also understand the stereotypes that they are going to have in their mind when they hear things like BDSM or DS or poly. These are all things that we need to be aware of. So we need to educate ourselves by reading books, articles, going to educational websites, taking a class, going to a munch, talking to other folks about the lifestyle. And this is where groups can be very important, especially in person groups. Because when you get together and you start sharing experiences, you can learn from somebody else who has talked to the closed-minded person that for whatever reason they had to or they felt they needed to talk to others about the lifestyle. You can learn from the way that they've had to deal and go through the stereotypes that are that are out everywhere around us. And that's one of the reasons why, let's face it, I doubt there's anybody out there listening to this podcast that has a I Heart BDSM t-shirt that they wear when they go to the grocery. I just doubt it. Hey, you could prove me wrong. Just please don't send me any pictures of your kumquats while you're wearing that, please. But it's important to build connections and to have a circle of people that you can trust and share your experiences, and they can share them with you. And through that sharing, we all grow stronger and more and ready to face what we could face. And it's important to talk openly and honestly about the lifestyle when we have to, not to sugarcoat it. It's not like we are some you know Christian evangelical pastor on late night TV trying to save the one drunken person who is somehow passed out in front of the channel. But we do need to be honest when we talk to others about the lifestyle, be open about it, and obviously be educated about it, but not in a way to try and convert them or bring them to the dark side, maybe. I mean, we do have, many people that think it's like a dark art or it's the dark side, but we're not Darth Vader trying to, convince somebody that we're their father and they need to come to the dark side. It's just not. But we do need to be able to talk. And we are, if you're around the lifestyle long enough, you are going to have incredibly good friends who are vanilla that eventually little bit things will slip here and there that you're going to have to explain because they're going to ask questions because it slipped out of your mouth. It's going to happen. Okay? It's going to happen. So it's important to be able to talk about it in a way that is non-threatening, and you also understand the stereotypes that they have in their mind. So finally, just remember that everyone is different and everyone has different interests. So my DS is not your DS, and that's not somebody else's DS. Everybody in the lifestyle sees things differently, do things differently. So it's important that within the lifestyle, we accept, kind of the individualistic right to express ourselves how we'd like, and that when we educate ourselves, we understand that there isn't a true way, a right way. There's just what works for us. And we need to be positive and uplifting. And when we do talk about it with the vanillas, which occasionally does happen, that we keep it positive and we, once again, understand the crazy stereotypes that are likely floating in their mind, even if they go unspoken, so that we can, through our explanations, kind of check the boxes of, okay, we're talking to the vanilla, so he's going to think that it's abusive. Okay, check. We have to talk about consent. And, you kind of have that little mental checklist. So I hope this episode helped you understand some of the stereotypes that all of us in the lifestyle will kind of bump up against at various points in the vanilla world, potentially even within the in the DS world when we run into to somebody who's brand new and is kind of still working to shake off and get through all those stereotypes that they were mistakenly told about the lifestyle. So please don't forget to click the follow button wherever you are. And no matter where you are and where you're listening, I would love it if you shared your feedback about a stereotype that you encountered in your journey in the lifestyle, and how did you handle that? So on that note, I will say goodbye, and I look forward to chatting with you all next week when hopefully it'll have warmed up, even though I doubt it. But I don't think it's going to happen next week, but I do look forward to recording a few of these episodes down at my local lighthouse. So until then, I will chat with you soon.